Hi everyone, today we're going to be making some really quick and easy oatmeal raisin cookies. It's about 7 o'clock in the evening and both of us got a craving for some oatmeal raisin cookies, which is really strange because we usually don't have the same cravings at the same time. So I'm going to just whip something together here, and I will try to take measurements because I'm just creating a recipe right now. And normally I throw it all together and then try to take measurements afterwards. But I'm just going to take some measurements and see how it works out. So I just have a few things laid out here that I have on hand, and I'm going to use oats obviously in oatmeal raisin cookies. I'm going to take 1/4 cup of oats and grind them into a flour. These are quick oats, by the way. So I have 1/4 cup of oats. I'm going to pop them in my coffee grinder and grind them up. Now, since there's already about a tablespoon of ground flax seeds in my coffee grinder, I'm going to add that in as well. So here's my 1/4 cup of ground oats. Then I'm going to add 1/2 cup of just the unground oats. I find grinding some things up usually helps things stick together a little bit better. And I'm preheating my oven to 350 degrees. So I'm just making a very small batch, and that's how I normally do things if I'm testing out a recipe. So this I'm expecting to make maybe 6, 8 cookies. So we have in here now a tablespoon of ground flax, 1/4 cup of ground oats, and 1/2 cup of oats. And to that I'm going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. About 1/4 teaspoon or a hefty pinch of Celtic salt. Now whenever you're using baking soda, make sure you get the lumps out, because there's nothing worse than a lump of baking soda in one bite. So we're going to mix that really well. I was just about to dump these in without measuring. I'm going to put in about 1/8 cup of flax seeds. And I'm going to use sugar for this one. I find if you use a wet sweetener in cookies that it makes the cookies, they just don't cook right. So I'm going to use a tablespoon of cane sugar and a tablespoon of brown sugar, but you could use any kind of dry sugar that you have, like coconut sugar if you prefer. I don't have any coconut sugar on hand right now. So I got the dark brown sugar and regular cane sugar. And I'm popping in a tablespoon of each there. I'm going to mix that through really well. Maybe it's all the snow that we had again yesterday that's making us crave some sweets and carbs. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to add my wet ingredients. So I'm going to add in a splash of vanilla. Sorry, I'm not going to measure that. About a tablespoon of oil. You can use any oil you like. Avocado oil. I have sunflower oil. That's the one I'm using right now. I'm going to mix this together, and I have some water here, or you can use like an almond milk or nut milk or regular milk. I'm just going to add a little at a time. until this starts to hold together. Okay, so it's like sticking together. And now I'm going to add in 1 egg. And if you're vegan, you can add in a flax egg. And if you're vegan, you know how to make a flax egg. So let's add 1 egg for the final binding here. Okay, it looks a tad bit wet, so this is an experimental recipe. That was a large egg, so probably a small egg would have done it. So I'm just going to throw in a few more oats. Now I'm going to add a good fistful of raisins. Let's see if that's enough. That's about 1/4 cup of raisins. And that looks good. Now because I added in baking soda, I'm going to add just a squirt of lemon juice. That'll help the cookies rise. Now I'll spoon these out on my baking sheet. And here's my ugly baking sheet. If you watch my cooking, you know this is not a non-stick baking sheet. It's naturally non-stick. It's an old tin pan that have been seasoned well over the years. So I'm going to take some little blobs. See how many I get. And what I guessed was 8 cookies is about right. It's going to do about 8 cookies. Always work in small batches when you're trying a recipe for the first time or you're creating your own recipe. It's never good to have a great big giant batch of something that don't turn out well. That one's a little tinier. Alright, so I'm going to push those. I'll actually take a little bit from this one. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to push those down with a fork and then pop them in the oven. After about 10 minutes in the oven, they smell about right. So let's take them out and have a look. Ooh.